have you been keeping up on the events with regards to Douma? You know that the Syria bombing in 2017 and the OPCW leaks since then.
Yes, I haven't read sort of anything recently, but I know what you mean. So
It's
uh,
the whistleblowers coming
whistleblowers
out.
came
There's
forward.
four whistleblowers
Yeah.
now that have come out. Four whistleblowers that have come out from the OPCW. The OPCW, for those who are listening who don't know, that's the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. This is an organisation that the United Nations use as the authority on what is a chemical weapons attack or not. And in April of 2017, you may remember, according to the media, Assad gassed his own people just at the point where he was going to win the war against the quote moderate rebels. And when I say quote moderate rebels, what I mean is Al Nusra and Al Qaeda, the people that we're supporting
Yeah.
against Assad. They don't tell you that part, do they? They don't tell you that Al Nusra and is Al Qaeda in Syria.
No,
They don't
they're
tell
a
you
human
that
rights
actually we're
activist that we
supporting the
support.
terrorists here.
Yeah. Mm.
So he apparently he's on the verge of winning the war against them and ousting these moderate rebels hashtag terrorists from Douma. At which point he decides to drop two canisters of chlorine on their heads. Now, to people like me, it made no sense because why would you gas people just at the point where you're on the war, which is the one thing that's going to bring the wrath of powers much bigger than you, because that's their red line in the sand. And it's exactly what happened. We went and bombed them along with America and France just afterwards. People were they were questioning though why we would bomb them in the way that we did, because if you remember, we bombed targets and nobody was killed. We were told the Americans gave Russia a heads up beforehand what was happening. Things like one of the buildings that I know that they said was that they leveled, which they said was a chemical weapons factory, ended up being a factory that produced a sort of a vaccination for snake venom.
Right.
This is the sort of thing that they
Yeah.
bombed. And then obviously we've got sanctions on Syria and the ongoing war ever since. I mean, we had it for 5 years anyway. And this is a regime change war by proxies in Syria. Go and look up Operation Timber Sycamore. The United States have been trying to do it. They jumped on the back of the Arab Spring back in 2012. This is how they've done it. But again, the question, the white helmets were found to have filmed this incident of these children suffering from what they said was chemical weapons, chlorine,
Mm.
and yeah, it was a chemical weapons attack. But it turns out that if you actually scratch under the surface, obviously we found out through the reporting of Robert Fisk, actually these kids weren't suffering from chlorine exposure. It was hypoxia. There was shelling in the area, dust. They were in tunnels. Dust came up, and they couldn't breathe. So the whole thing was a total fabrication. Total fabrication. The only people that actually would benefit from a chemical weapons attack in that area at that time were the quote moderate rebels, i.e., the terrorists that we're supporting, Al Nusra and Al Qaeda.
Mm.
So why would Assad do it, and why did the media go along with it? So, and then we find out that not long, it was about 6 months ago, James Le Mesurier, the guy who founded the White Helmets, fell out of a building
Oh
in
yes.
Turkey,
Yeah.
fell out of a window. It's all very cloak and dagger spy stuff, isn't it? And we don't necessarily. Are we ever going to find out the truth with regards to this, you think? And what if we find out the truth? What version of the truth is it?
I don't know. I mean, it is being people are daring to speak up, aren't they? The whistleblowers, and then, but it's only thanks to people who are really sort of brave enough to
Yeah,
put
these
themselves in
four
danger that we're
whistleblowers.
hearing what the truth is.
these four whistleblowers from the OPCW, they're basically there's evidence there. They've seen emails of them questioning why are you doing it this way? Why aren't you following protocol? All up to the point where now they're basically saying that this is. The conclusions that were the OPCW came to with regards to Douma, which are totally opposite to what I've just said. The conclusions, they were forced. They were forced to come to those conclusions by America and the powers, and massive political force was put upon them. And anybody who was actually on the fact-finding mission on the ground weren't actually in the final report. It was all done by people in Turkey, I believe, not people who've been on the ground. The chief engineer Henderson, who was the first whistleblower to come out, he was the chief engineer, the chief guy, and he did a report saying these cylinders can using physics, there's no way that they could fall through this building in the way that they did and gently land on a bed. And that's their chief engineer saying that. And then you've got all the evidence that with regards to the people who did die during that Douma cap, the deceased. There's a lot of evidence to say, well, hold on a minute, these look like they were gassed by chlorine, but they were showing no signs of running away. There was a 100% mortality rate, which is never the case with chlorine. It's usually about 5%.
Yeah.
It looks very much like these people were gassed somewhere else and actually shipped into that area. And that to me screams the white helmets, which we fund to millions of pounds, the white helmets looks like that they have filmed and done a false flag here, which has led to us bombing a democratically elected country, which is by very definition the supreme war crime. And again, why have we done it? Why are we doing this? We're doing this for the Americans, because a week before Trump said he wants to pull out of Syria, if you remember. That's when this all happened. And then all of a sudden, there's a chemical weapons attack and it's not going to happen anymore. More troops are going there and we're sanctioning them and bombing them.
And now they've just written a new bunch of sanctions, haven't they? The Caesar Act, which to me looks like it's similar along the lines of the Magnitsky Act. It's taking a story, a narrative from a particular group of people that have a big invested interest, and using it to construct economic warfare, so very similar to the Magnitsky Act. So they can, I think it's in Syria, they did it a few days ago.
Yeah,
last week, the Caesar Act sanctions.
You're right in saying that they're constructing it, and they construct it the same way as they, for instance, with Syria, they construct the press constructed the narrative with Syria by propping up this organisation as the organisation who was absolutely, they were the gospel on what was happening in Syria with regards to chemical weapons and how many people were killed or injured by chemical weapons, etc. in Syria. And that's this organisation called the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. This is a geezer in Coventry.
Yeah.
He's 25 miles away. He was
money from the government, presumably.
Yeah, £98,000 in equipment he got in a grant from the government after fleeing Syria because he was facing a 4th jail term for fraud. Now, this is somebody who's obviously got a vested interest against Assad in Syria, isn't it? He was going to be in prison. So it's hardly an objective, unbiased source that they're using. And by calling it the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, don't you think that that's, the Trade Descriptions Act would have a field day with it, for Christ's sake? You're making out that it's some gigantic Syrian charity. It's a geezer in Coventry.
Yeah.
And they're doing it the same way with this, the Caesar Act, did you say?
So I think I was reading, there's a few articles on it. So it was a few days ago or last week. So another one of Mike Pompeo's big achievements. So I think it was like along the lines of Magnitsky Act. So it's based on a narrative of human rights abuses.
Right.
And I think it was based on some, due to a lobby, anti-Syria government,
right,
pro-Western, pro-NATO, or Gulf states lobby that were trying to get US to impose sanctions on the Syrian government for over a period of time based on accusations they made about deaths in prison. But I
Right.
think, again, like we talked about Max Blumenthal earlier, I think he's done an expose of this, and he's just published an article showing that the whole it was kind of a project, if you like, funded by groups that fund Al-Qaeda,
Right.
with a vested interest in overthrowing the Syrian government. They pushed this project in through to on the back of stories of abuse. I think they had some photographs of dead bodies,
Right.
and they were using them, but they weren't. There was no evidence where these pictures actually came
Yeah.
from. I don't think they were really kind of examined
It's
forensically.
good way
So,
to get
it's,
people
again,
to
like we were
think a
saying,
certain way, though, isn't it?
you can say anything is a piece of evidence, and as long as it's attached to the right cause,
Yeah.
the US government will enshrine it in a legislation and create economic, targets to punish whoever it wants.
Of course.
So this is on the back of everything. Now the Syrians are having to deal with this new set of sanctions that are really going to hit the country and hit the population. So the US doesn't give up. It's just not giving up, is it? It's
No, it's not, and it's not giving up. And I like it. The end of Terminator 2, when the T-1000 gets Arnie presses the button, says "Hasta la vista, baby," and the bullet explodes in the T-1000, and he falls into that vat of molten sort of metal, and you can see him go, and all the faces of all the people, all the nastiness that he's done comes to the fore. I think that's like 2020. And we're seeing all the evil faces of the American empire and what it's done around the world, and it's certainly coming to the fore, and it's almost like it's a dying empire. It's dying, and you're seeing the last throes